The Beatles' sudden split had remained shrouded in mystery, but now, at 82, Paul McCartney is ready to reveal the hidden truth behind their breakup. This groundbreaking confession promises to rewrite the story of the Fab Four's final days. But before we go down that road, let's take a look at the life and career of the icon and his association with the band. Early life and musical career of McCartney James Paul McCartney, born on June 18, 1942, in Liverpool's Walton area, is more than just a musical icon. He's a symbol of resilience and talent shaped by life's trials. His journey from a working-class background to international stardom is marked by both personal struggles and triumphs. McCartney's early years were influenced by his parents' hard work and dedication. His father, Jim, worked as a lathe turner during the war, while his mother, Mary, was a nurse and midwife. Their support was crucial in McCartney's upbringing. He attended Stockton Wood Road Primary School and later the Liverpool Institute, where he befriended George Harrison. A pivotal moment came when McCartney's mother passed away on October 31, 1956. This loss deepened his bond with John Lennon, who had also lost his mother. Jim McCartney, a musician leading Jim Mack's jazz band, nurtured Paul's musical talent, giving him an upright piano and encouraging him to learn by ear. At 14, McCartney shifted his focus from the trumpet to rock and roll, inspired by artists like Little Richard. This led him to trade his trumpet for a Zenith acoustic guitar. Struggling with a right-handed guitar, he restrung it to fit his left-handed style, marking the start of his journey as a guitarist and songwriter. A turning point came on July 6, 1957, when McCartney met John Lennon and his band, the Quarrymen, at St. Peter's Church Hall in Woolton. Impressed by the band's blend of rock and roll and skiffle, McCartney joined as a rhythm guitarist, beginning a groundbreaking partnership with Lennon. In 1958, George Harrison joined as the lead guitarist, and Stuart Sutcliffe, a friend from Lennon's art school, played bass. After several name changes, the band settled on The Beatles in August 1960 and recruited drummer Pete Best. Their residency in Hamburg, Germany, shaped their sound and unity, setting the stage for their global success. Rise to fame with the Beatles. In the early 60s, the Beatles were just finding their footing, but their journey took a significant turn when Stuart Sutcliffe left the band a year after they chose their name in 1961. With Sutcliffe's departure, Paul McCartney stepped in as the bass player, a role he embraced with unwavering commitment. This shift came at a time when the band was exploring new musical horizons in Hamburg. Their first professional recording, as the Beat Brothers backing Tony Sheridan on My Bonnie, was a turning point. It was this recording that caught the eye of Brian Epstein, who began managing the band in January 1962. Epstein's influence would prove crucial in steering the Beatles towards stardom. Later that year, the band welcomed Ringo Starr as their new drummer, replacing Pete Best. This lineup change set the stage for their breakthrough hit, Love Me Do, released in October 1962. This single was more than just a chart-topping success. It marked the dawn of Beatlemania, first in the UK and soon spreading to the US. Amidst the whirlwind of fame, McCartney's appeal earned him the nickname Cute Beatle. His songwriting partnership with John Lennon blossomed, producing a string of hits such as I Saw Her Standing There, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and Can't Buy Me Love. By August 1965, McCartney showcased his musical versatility with Yesterday, a ballad featuring a string quartet that became one of the most covered songs ever, symbolizing the Beatles' foray into classical music elements. As McCartney's influence within the band grew, it became evident with the release of Rubber Soul. McCartney's role expanded beyond songwriting to include arranging, producing, and even acting as the band's musical director. Tracks like In My Life highlighted the evolving maturity of McCartney and Lennon's songwriting. This album marked a shift from their earlier pop sound to more complex and introspective themes. The evolution continued with Revolver, released in 1966, which solidified McCartney's creative prowess. Songs like Eleanor Rigby demonstrated the Beatles' experimental approach and sophisticated lyrics. Following the end of their touring years, McCartney embarked on his first solo project, scoring the film The Family Way. Collaborating with George Martin, McCartney's themes were transformed into variations that, while not a commercial success, earned him an Ivor Novello Award for Best Instrumental Theme. In response to the Beatles' need for creative renewal, McCartney proposed Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, a groundbreaking album often hailed as the first concept album. The recording sessions, starting in November 1966, were filled with experimentation, exemplified by A Day in the Life, which featured a 40-piece orchestra. McCartney and Martin shared the conducting duties. This period of creativity also saw the release of Strawberry Fields Forever in February 1967, followed by the album in June. The band's dynamic changed dramatically after Brian Epstein's death in August 1967, with McCartney stepping into a more prominent role. He became the de facto leader and business manager, a position previously held by John Lennon. McCartney's leadership was evident in the production of Magical Mystery Tour, a television film that, despite mixed reviews, had a successful soundtrack. The Beatles' creative journey continued with the animated film Yellow Submarine, inspired by McCartney's earlier work, which premiered in July 1968 and was praised for its innovative visuals and music. However, by late 1968, internal tensions within the band were rising, particularly during the recording of the White Album. These issues persisted into the Let It Be sessions in 1969, which were documented on film. McCartney voiced concerns about the band's direction and dynamics, reflecting on the loss of Epstein's guiding influence. The final chapter of the Beatles' recording career, Abbey Road, featured a cohesive symphonic approach championed by McCartney and George Martin, despite internal disagreements. During this period, an odd rumor emerged in October 1969, claiming McCartney had died in a car accident years earlier. The rumor was quickly debunked when McCartney appeared with his family on the cover of Life magazine in November 1969, reassuring fans of his continued presence. Despite these efforts to keep the band together, the Beatles disbanded a year later. McCartney eventually revealed the details behind the breakup. For now, let's explore the immediate aftermath of the band's dissolution and the new paths each member embarked on. Paul McCartney and the Wings. Paul McCartney has long been celebrated as one of music's enduring legends, but in the aftermath of the Beatles' split, he faced a deeply personal struggle. Amidst the band's dissolution, McCartney wrestled with profound depression. It was his wife, Linda, who became his beacon of hope, offering encouragement and admiration for his songwriting talents. In a heartfelt gesture, McCartney crafted the moving ballad, Maybe I'm Amazed, a tribute to Linda's unwavering support and her ability to ground him emotionally. As McCartney began his solo journey in 1970 with the release of his eponymous album, he found solace and success, with the record topping the US charts and paving the way for his new path. The following year, McCartney, Linda, and drummer Denny Sewell collaborated on Ram, a critically acclaimed album that soared to #1 in the UK and reached the top 5 in the US by September 1971. This period also saw the formation of Wings with the addition of guitarist Henry McCullough. In 1972, Wings embarked on their first tour, building their confidence and preparing for a European journey. Their Wings Over Europe tour, spanning 7 weeks and 25 shows, focused on an intimate performance style in smaller venues, reflecting the band's evolving sound. By March 1973, Wings celebrated their first US #1 single with My Love from Red Rose Speedway. That same year, the band introduced Live and Let Die, the theme song for the James Bond film, produced with former Beatles producer George Martin. The song's success and Martin's Grammy-winning orchestral arrangement highlighted Wings' continued evolution. Despite lineup changes, including the departure of Henry McCullough and Denny Sewell, McCartney, Linda, and Denny Laine released Band on the Run, an album that achieved chart-topping status in both the US and the UK, and won a Grammy for Best Pop Vocal Performance. Wings' success continued with back-to-back hit albums Venus and Mars in 1975 and Wings at the Speed of Sound in 1976. Their Wings Over the World tour, covering the UK, Australia, Europe, and the US, culminated in the acclaimed live triple LP Wings Over America, capturing their global performance energy. In 1977, the single Mull of Kintyre, co-written with Denny Laine, became a UK phenomenon, setting sales records that lasted until 1984. Albums London Town in 1978 and Back to the Egg in 1979 maintained their commercial success. By 1980, McCartney released McCartney 2, marking a shift in his musical direction and featuring the hit single Coming Up, which became Wings' final #1 hit. However, by 1981, internal conflicts led McCartney to dissolve Wings following Denny Laine's departure. This marked the end of an era, but it also set the stage for the next chapter in McCartney's storied career. Moving on after The Wing, Paul McCartney has long been celebrated as one of the music industry's brightest stars, but behind the iconic hits and legendary performances lies a story of continual reinvention and personal evolution. At 40, McCartney was already a musical powerhouse, but the years that followed would see him navigating a series of artistic ventures and personal milestones that reveal a deeper narrative. In 1982, McCartney joined forces with Stevie Wonder for the hit single Ebony and Ivory, a collaboration that reached new heights as his 28th #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That same year, he teamed up with Michael Jackson on The Girl Is Mine from Jackson's blockbuster album Thriller, continuing their partnership with Say 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 in 1983. Venturing into new territory, McCartney took on filmmaking in 1984 with Give My Regards to Broad Street. Though the film faced critical criticism, its soundtrack achieved notable success, including the top 10 hit No More Lonely Nights. He also penned Spies Like Us for the 1985 film and delivered a memorable performance at Live Aid that year. In 1986, McCartney's collaboration with Eric Stewart on Press to Play and his 1988 release Back in the USSR reflected his ongoing creativity. A year later, he united with Jerry Marsden and Holly Johnson to perform Ferry Cross the Mersey in support of the Hillsborough disaster appeal. The late 80s saw McCartney's Flowers in the Dirt, a collaboration with Elvis Costello, followed by the Paul McCartney World Tour, which culminated in a historic concert at Rio's Maracana Stadium. This tour was documented in the triple album Tripping the Live Fantastic. By 1991, McCartney was exploring orchestral music with Liverpool Oratorio, co-composed with Carl Davis. Despite mixed reviews, it topped the UK classical chart. He also released Unplugged, capturing the essence of his MTV performance. During the 90s, McCartney's electronic experimentation under the pseudonym The Fireman, alongside Killing Joke, led to albums like Strawberry Ocean Ship's Forest. The Beatles anthology project from 1994 to 1998 marked a significant chapter in McCartney's career, alongside the release of Flaming Pie in 1997. His continued foray into classical music with Standing Stone and rock with Rushes and Run Devil Run showcased his diverse talents. The 1999 tribute concert for Linda McCartney at the Royal Albert Hall was a poignant highlight. In 2000, McCartney's Liverpool sound collage with super furry animals and youth, and his contributions to the A. Garland for Linda tribute reflected his eclectic style. After the September 11th attacks, he organized the concert for New York City and released Driving Rain, featuring Freedom as a response to the tragedy. The Driving World Tour in 2002 was a massive success, earning $126.2 million. McCartney continued to make headlines with performances at the Super Bowl and Live Aid, and releases such as Chaos and Creation in the Backyard in 2005. His classical work Etsy Core Meum and rock album Memory almost full followed, leading to his third Fireman album Electric Arguments. Resuming touring in 2009, McCartney celebrated the Beatles catalog reissue and the Beatles Rock Band release with sold-out concerts, and the double live album Good Evening, New York City. His 2011 signing with Decca Records, composition of Ocean's Kingdom, and release of Kisses on the Bottom were milestones, alongside honors like the Music Hair's Person of the Year. McCartney's 2012 performances, including the closing of Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee concert and the Summer Olympics opening ceremony, underscored his enduring appeal. He continued his philanthropic efforts with the Concert for Sandy Relief, and released New in 2013. In early 2014, McCartney's participation in The Night That Changed America and collaborations with Kanye West and Rihanna highlighted his ongoing relevance. His 2016 release Pure McCartney and the 2018 album Egypt Station, which topped the Billboard 200, reflected his evolving sound. In December 2020, McCartney's McCartney III marked his first UK #1 solo album since 1989, followed by McCartney III Imagined in 2021. His 2022 Got Back tour, concluding with a historic Glastonbury Festival performance, solidified his status as an enduring icon. With a Primetime Emmy Award for The Beatles, Get Back, and the 2023 publication of 1964, Eyes of the Storm, a collection of photographs from the Beatlemania era, McCartney's story continues to unfold, revealing the depth and resilience of the man behind the music. Life behind the Beatlemania. Paul McCartney has long been celebrated as a musical genius, but behind the iconic tunes and the glittering success lies a life full of poignant personal and professional moments. From his role as the producer and host of The Real Buddy Holly Story in 1985 to his unforgettable guest spot on The Simpsons in 1995, and his direction of a short documentary on the Grateful Dead, McCartney's influence extends far beyond music. By 2015, he stood as the UK's wealthiest musician, with his fortune hitting an impressive £730 million. Yet, McCartney's romantic life is equally compelling. His first serious relationship with Dorothy Rowan began in 1959 at Liverpool's Casbah Club, where his control over her appearance was evident, from her wardrobe to hairstyle changes aimed at echoing Brigitte Bardot. Their relationship, marred by a miscarriage, ended with their engagement being called off. Free from this commitment, McCartney met Jane Asher at a Beatles show in 1963. Their whirlwind romance led him to move into her family's home and later to his own residence in St. John's Wood, inspiring hits like Yesterday and I Love Her. However, their relationship unraveled when Asher learned of McCartney's involvement with American screenwriter Francie Schwartz. After parting ways with Asher in 1968, McCartney briefly dated Schwartz, but their connection was fleeting amidst the Beatles' internal strife and McCartney's work on the White Album. By late 1968, McCartney found solace in Linda Eastman, whom he met at a 1967 concert. Despite initial interest in John Lennon, Linda's affections turned to Paul. They married in March 1969, overcoming last-minute doubts. Their union, which produced the band Wings after the Beatles' breakup, was marked by joy and music until Linda's tragic death from breast cancer in 1998. McCartney's grief and guilt led him to seek counseling after her passing. In 2002, McCartney married Heather Mills, a former model and landmine activist. Their marriage, marked by the birth of their daughter Beatrice Milley in 2003, was heavily scrutinized by the media. Differences in lifestyle and Mills's outspoken nature led to their contentious divorce in 2008. McCartney's subsequent marriage to Nancy Shevell in 2011, a longtime partner and transportation executive, has been a stable and joyful chapter. They celebrated their 12th wedding anniversary in October 2023 and enjoy their time together, including a recent trip to St. Bart's in March 2024. McCartney's life also includes a battle with substance use. His experimentation began with cannabis in the 1960s, introduced by Bob Dylan, and influenced songs like Gotta Get You Into My Life. Although he tried LSD and cocaine, he quit cannabis in 2015 to set a positive example for his grandchildren. Beyond his personal struggles, McCartney has been a dedicated advocate for animal rights and ethical living. A transformative 1975 visit to a farm led him and Linda to promote vegetarianism and support organizations like PETA and the Humane Society. His commitment extends to humanitarian causes, environmental protection, and charitable efforts, including backing campaigns for Aung San Suu Kyi and ecological responsibility. In 2024, McCartney continued his advocacy by sponsoring the Tree Register yearbook. As we explore McCartney's remarkable journey, one question lingers. What was the true reason behind the Beatles' breakup? Who really broke up the Beatles? When the Beatles split in 1970, Paul McCartney found himself at the center of the storm. Yet, in a recent interview with BBC Radio 4's John Wilson, McCartney revealed a dramatic twist. It was John Lennon who actually triggered the breakup. McCartney vividly described the moment Lennon declared he wanted out, likening it to a divorce that left the remaining Beatles to grapple with the fallout. Although McCartney did make the move to legally dissolve the band's business partnership by suing his former bandmates, he clarified that he was not the catalyst for their split. The roots of Lennon's decision, according to McCartney, lay in his burgeoning social and political activism with Yoko Ono. The couple's Big Ism movement challenged societal norms, and their bed-ins for peace, protests against the Vietnam War staged from Amsterdam and Montreal, became iconic. McCartney admitted that this period was one of the hardest in his life, lamenting that the Beatles could have continued their groundbreaking work if not for Lennon's departure. Even amid the drama of their breakup, the Beatles' impact on music remains monumental. Their inventive approach to songwriting and studio production, combined with their cultural influence, revolutionized popular music. From their early days in Liverpool's bustling underground scene to their rise as global icons, the Beatles didn't just break records, they shattered conventions. They merged diverse musical styles, pushed artistic boundaries, and set new standards. Their legacy extends far beyond their hit singles. With Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, they introduced the concept album, experimented with new sounds and recording techniques, and used their platform to advocate for social change. Each member brought a distinct voice, creating a synergy that captured the zeitgeist of the 1960s and continues to resonate. Even after their individual paths diverged, the Beatles' collective work remains unparalleled, inspiring musicians and artists worldwide. Their influence reverberates through every genre, from pop to rock to avant-garde. As Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr keep their legacy alive with ongoing performances, the Beatles' timeless music and pioneering spirit remind us that they were more than just a band. They were revolutionary forces who reshaped modern music and culture.